Ingveon, Dawn of the D Dealers. This episode of Dawn of the D Dealers is brought to you by Cold Hill Custom Productions in association with the Illuminati. About 6,000 years ago, the first languages were just being spoken. Then, as legend has it, a being from outer space landed in what is now modern Iraq and bestowed upon the people a book of great power. That book was supposed to have operated like a computer. This was no ordinary book because it could predict future events, it could engineer technology and machines, and it could deliver astonishing wisdom. It is believed that the euphemism about the intelligent Mr. Ed sprang up at about the same time. What did the Sumerians really receive from this codec, and how did they make it operate? Join me as we explore this and other mysteries about the codec and its mysterious functions. We have very little to go on, so my colleagues and I started with the Nimmond lens, found in ancient Babylon. When light passes through the lens, it casts a bull shadow under any surface, which is indeed the sign of Baal. Later on, this would prove to be critical in understanding its history. The Eye of Re, we know, represents the hand lens with a handle, but the oldest form of this is the orb lens. Just given this, there's no solution. There had to be something more. This would have been an impasse, but I was aware of something that the scholars had overlooked, something that they didn't connect to their inquiry. This was simply a tool used to plot positions. Similar to an astrolabe, these Cana discs, as they're called, held the key. The disc shown here produced the first legitimate cipher from the test. This disc is missing a second disc and a stylus that it would have rotated on. The pathway of letters was revealed through the sight holes that you can see. For decades, we labored at cracking the codec with various means. Most attempts failed or produced utter gibberish. Some isolated one or two words. But slowly, we overcame the hurdles and we were able to rebuild the rule book for operating the code. The solution took on a form none of us could have guessed. We had to investigate every legend of every culture to do some of this work. The cross-referencing gave us insight over the rules governing the ciphering of the codec, which I will reveal later. We researched the prophets and carefully scrutinized their words. This produced further insight. I was able to validate that the codec is a true artificial intelligent device from ancient times. Most origins date back to 223 BC to 300 AD. After the fall of Hattusha, Egypt, and Babylonian Sumer, the codec changed hands to the Zoroastrian and Christian. The Romans and Israelites sought to eradicate it. This is where the codec's history is hard to trace and validate. With the countless miles of ruins and the hours of excavating sites of interest, we have confirmed that the codec contains the Book of Enoch, or better known as the Epic of Gilgamesh. So we look to a descendant, a later version of this, which would be Jesus or Yeshua, and precisely the books of John, Mark, Luke, and Matthew. Secondly, the Acts, Corinth, and the Rapture. Altogether, they comprise this artificial intelligence of incredible magnitude. But how this artificial intelligence operates is what no one knows. I was able to dig up the information that I needed to correct the flaws in our methods. Michael Drozen and his methods were helpful in this, but they were not the answer. Despite Roman attempts, codec cannot be eradicated because it's built on the laws of language and writing. Two things that Romans held dear was law and writing. That's why it still exists today. This polished stone axe reaches back to the time when the the early portions of the codec were first being written. And as amazing as the general readings are, nothing could have prepared me for the shock that I was going to get from the Bundy code. This is when I realized that I wasn't dealing with an agrarian backwater, that this was something huge. This is the actual quatrain as it appeared in the codec. It says the most important things about Ted Bundy. With terms like might crude pie latte and ever nursed saints in a Mount Cobras, it's hard to mistake who this is talking about. And his name is even written twice in the form of a scrambled letter word, so it's unmistakable. So this photo is the actual location of where this quatrain came from in the text. And if you really look, you can pick out some of the words that appear in the text itself that I was able to render. So unlike other known methods, our process of ciphering these codes is capable of producing whole entire sentences, or in some cases full paragraphs of text that contain astonishing wisdom, prophecy, and other things, even technology. So the most important thing is learning what the rules are, the rules that construct the codec. And after I worked with it for a few years, they became second nature to me. And I've written them here for you to read. You can stop the film and read them if you don't have enough time. But the construct of the code is really, really enormously amazing. And if you follow these simple rules, it'll deliver some of the most amazing literature of reading that you've ever seen. And it's astonishingly powerful. This is a good time to get a comment from Mr. Ed. Ants gin to drink. This is an actual photo of a cipher that is set and ready to read. And if you carefully read what's in the shadow and carefully read what's in the illuminated, lighted part, you'll get an amazing text. And just remember, every letter has to be used exactly as it appears, and you have to follow the rules that I've described earlier. So if you read this in its entirety, I'm sure you'll agree that this statement is refreshing and verbose in the level of its prose style. So the keywords that I use here are in due time and Beard said, and which means after the fact, Beard said. And this is the happy face. This is a happy face kind of configuration that I used here in the shadow and light. And it happens to be just exactly the right symmetry to decipher this specific code. So now that I've shared a prophecy with you and a writ of wisdom, I'd like to also share with you some of the other renderings that I've discovered in the text, so you can get a feel for how the dialogue plays off and for the feel of the prose style that's incorporated into it. These quatrains take the form of tongue-twisting idioms, baffling oxymorons, enigmatic riddles. There's just so many things I can say about how difficult some of these quatrains can be to comprehend. And it's not that they're gibberish, just they're so intelligent, and they reach out to definitions of words that are not common to our manner of thinking, that it makes them really hard to grasp. But if you work with it for a while and research language and research words and that, every one of the quatrain that you render will make absolute perfect sense. And it's pretty amazing that it's that way, but that's how it works. And So now, after I've gathered all this information out in the field, it's time for me to gather up everything that I've assembled and do something productive with it. So now, it's time for me to come in from the field and write books and make videos about this, which is what I'm attempting to do right now. And so far, I've been most interested in the origins of this codec. So that's why I called this video Dawn of the D-Dealers. So if you have any questions or suggestions that could lend insight into the subject, please feel free to leave a message at the bottom of the page. So what I'm attempting to do is thoroughly document everything that I'm finding in 3 different ways. I'm documenting it in the actual book itself. I'm writing a journal and writing a book about it and documenting all that in a book. And I'm also turning this into a video format so that everyone can watch it on video. And what I'd like to eventually do is compile enough information where I can start building a computer program that will decipher the codes, where the input information could be rendered in an analog or a computerized format, and then use computer keys to everything into the questions into a computer program and have that render the codes. I think that would be the easiest way to go about it. And this photo you're looking at right here is an early idea of how to make that happen. But long before the computer program ever becomes a reality, I have to inspire investors and capable designers into helping me build the program, and that's a pretty big bridge to cross. But every day I'm working at coming up with solutions to make these issues easier to overcome. And soon, someday, we're going to make it happen. So it's no horse's hay when I tell you the shadow of this piece of wood is capable of delivering some incredible wisdom and intelligence. And if I could just show you in person, I would astonish you in 10 seconds.